wanted to give you one example of the psychodynamic mind specifically to try to help you understand that. It is a really important thing. I'm going to try to keep this video pretty short because I already have a 10-minute lecture that's uploaded for you. So this is talking about this slide right here, the id, the ego, and the superego. So this slide is actually an important metaphor. This iceberg example actually signifies what's above the surface of the water. So what you see right up here is what we are consciously aware of. But so much of who we are operates in our unconscious mind. So that is what is below the surface of the water right there. And notice that the entirety of the id is below the surface of the water. So when you look at the id, ego, and superego, I mean, the explanations here, they're accurate, but you really, I think, need an example to really understand them. So here's the example I want to use, and hopefully I can go through this in about 5 minutes. I want you to think about speeding when you're driving your car if you speed. So first and foremost, some of you speed when you drive and some don't. Keep that in mind because I'm going to use both of those examples with it throughout this video. But let's say starting off, let's say that you do speed. So I am someone who speeds a little bit. I want you to think first and foremost about however much you usually speed. If it's 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, hopefully not much more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. For me personally, I drive 8 miles an hour over the speed limit. Everyone always asks me, why 8? I have no idea. I have no answer to that. For whatever reason, I guess I boil it down to I feel like I'm less likely to get a ticket if I'm only driving 8 over while other cars are passing me going 10 over. I don't really know. But the point being, whatever you normally drive over the speed limit, that's your ego. That's yourself. It's how you balance your id and your superego. So let's use this example to break down where the id is and where the superego is in this example. So the id, instinctual primal part of our mind to seek out pleasure and to avoid pain. So, all right, let's think about this. The id says we want to seek out pleasure and avoid pain. Well, speed can be pleasurable. Driving fast can be pleasurable. Getting us home sooner or to our destination sooner certainly could be pleasurable. The speed itself can have some form of a thrill along with it. And for a lot of us, driving itself is painful, so minimizing the time that we're driving ends up an advantage to the id as well. So that part of things would say, let's drive as fast as we can. But we do have to avoid pain, so we don't want to drive so fast that we don't feel safe, because then, well, we can get into an accident, which would be painful in terms of physical as well as the emotional pain of now I might not have a car or have to spend a lot more money to fix this car. So the id is tempting us. And like I said in the other video, that's how the id works. It is temptation. So the id's tempting us to drive as fast as we can while still feeling safe. Now we have the superego. The superego, the truth is when it comes to speeding, we all probably have certain parts of our superego in place that are consistent. Because most of us, if not all of us, have probably seen the commercials that talk about, well, if you're driving 35 miles an hour, you're more likely to fatally injure someone than if you're driving 25. We know that there's a reason behind a speed limit, that there is some safety research involved in having the speed limits as they are set. We know that we can get a ticket if we end up speeding, and a ticket going into what's in the id too. The ticket itself could be painful too. So for the most part in our superego is going to tell us to drive the speed limit, maybe even a little under the speed limit because of safety, because of all these other things that we might see. And at the same time as that, we have our id saying drive a whole lot faster. Now the ego is how we balance that. So however fast you usually go, that's your ego balancing those two demands. If my superego says to drive the speed limit and my id says to drive 20 miles an hour, my ego balances those two things, and that's where I get to the 8. Because at 8, I don't feel like I'm going to get a ticket. Ticket obviously would be painful financially. I don't feel unsafe driving. I feel like I'm in complete control of my car. It gets me where I'm going faster, so it can be pleasurable, etc., etc. Now, I said before I was going to get back to this original example of do you speed or not. So, 2 parts to this question. If you do speed, has there ever been a time where whatever you normally speed, you've driven a whole lot faster? And if you don't speed, has there ever been a time where you did? Either of those examples, you would be looking at a time where the id can win out, because again, it is temptation. So the id is trying to tempt us to give in to the demands of it, to compromise the superego. Well, if you don't ever speed, has there ever been a time where you did? Maybe you were in a rush to get somewhere. You're late for work. If you are show up to work late, you might get fired. That would be emotionally painful. You might get yelled at. It might be painful. You are just rushing home, or you want to make it in time for your favorite show or something like that. That's pleasurable. And if you do speed, has there ever been a time where you've driven even faster? There's definitely been a time where I've driven faster than 8 miles an hour over the speed limit. Have had a really long day at work. A couple semesters ago, I used to leave for work at about 8 a.m. and I didn't end up getting home with my last class ended at 11:15. So I think they got me home at about 12:15, 12:30. That's a long day. There were days where that day was so long that yeah, I was driving faster than 8 miles an hour trying to get home because I just needed to get home and to unwind. Sometimes you just need that hot shower. You just need to relax for a minute. Those are times where the id can be tempting and the id can actually end up winning out. So that's how these three things work together. The id, again, completely in our unconscious mind. We're not aware that the id is tempting us. We're not aware that that's what the id is specifically doing. What the id's saying is, well, this would be fun, this would be pleasurable, or this would be painful, we shouldn't do that. We don't consciously realize the actual rationale behind that. We only know that we have that devil on our shoulder, that angel on our shoulder. That devil on our shoulder is saying, well, let's do that. That sounds fun. Or that, let's not do that because it'd be painful. Same time, we have the superego, which is that good conscious on our shoulder saying this is the right thing to do. Well, our real self is the person in between. That's who balances those two things. All right, hope that helped. If not, shoot me emails and we can always chat more.